Here goes the intro.
My dad just called.
Hey, how's it going?
Okay. Could you hear that?
Nah.
Okay. I turned off the mic. I want to make sure it's going through the mic.
What up, nerds? Welcome to a special M. Night Shyamalan edition of Straight Chilling. My name is Bob. I'll be your host for the evening. This is episode number 198, recorded on Sunday, January 20th, 2019. Tonight we're going to be talking about Glass. Before we get into it, let me introduce everyone else on the show. First up, calling in from Santa Barbara, California, my boy Randy Gandy G. Landy.
What's up? I see dead people. Let's get that joke out now. We don't have to worry about it. It's gone. Fuck that joke.
Last but not least, calling in from Southern Korea, my boy Soju.
What up? It's your boy Twisty Stains. We're gonna handle all the twists today. Twist on twist on twist, bitches.
Not twisted, but twisty.
You say the word bitches like Gollum says precious. It's just sort of a period to all your sentences.
My bitches.
Yo, bitches. Fun little fact about your boy Twist Stains today. I often do the whole shower deal where, you sing the songs and just in my head. But I replace a lot of like extra words with bish. So like if like there's a baby like in a word or sometimes just an extra space where people breathe, I'll just throw like the bish in there.
Okay. Let's pump the brakes, and I need you to tell me what the fuck you're talking about. You said something about showers, and then
just like songs in general. Just like I said, like when you have like singing songs in the shower.
Oh, like in the shower? Okay.
Yeah.
Didn't catch that. Like, I don't know what this has to do. You're like a series of non sequiturs to me.
Do you have an example?
I'll have to work. No, I mean it happens it's so effortless. Like it's like really if there's like even a pause, like an extra breathing space, I'll just throw an extra bish in there,
Like Precious. Gollum would sing that.
Hit me bishes one more time.
Yeah, something like that. But I mean,
okay.
yeah, in that vein, sure. Yeah.
God help us.
Bishes. Okay.
We're about 10 minutes into our episode without talking about a movie.
And that'll do it for us. Tune in next time for another rousing episode. A little bit of housekeeping real quick. Just a reminder, the February poll pick is posted on our Patreon website. If you support us at the $5 level or above, you can vote on a movie we're going to talk about in February. The movies up there that you can vote on are Ghost, Audition, and My Bloody Valentine. Audition's still winning. It's looking pretty good.
How's it like? What's the percentages? Do you know?
No,
it doesn't matter. We'll move on.
It's like 20 to 80% or something like that. It's pretty favorable in Audition.
So nobody wants to watch Ghost. Are we positive about
that? Is
still sitting at a 0.
Genuinely very surprising to me.
It's so scary.
I am desperate to know why that's genuinely surprising.
I'm actually very, very excited to watch Audition now, though.
Yeah. Pour one out for our boy Patrick Swayze.
I know. We were going to rock the Ghost and everything, like legit. It works on so many levels.
Oh, Swayze.
Rocking the Ghost.
Too busy making Google Map style apps.
Are we still doing housekeeping? Can we keep it rolling?
Yes. Yeah, you got it.
I don't want you to skip out. Sometimes Bob just, he like gets locked in and you can't get a word in, sometimes you just
Me?
Please.
I'm the one. Okay.
Please, you gotta, like, force yourself in there, So I just want to be clear.
Talk now. The floor is yours.
So the YouTube has been bumping. Thank you, everyone. We've gotten I don't know, close to 20 subscribers since the last episode, I believe. So we are so close to hitting that 100 mark, and there are already exclusive videos in the works. Right now on the YouTube, you are already getting, we've got our Twitch streams up there. You can watch those. Of course, all the behind the scenes of us filming this wonderful podcast you can watch every week, or just the regular old podcast you can listen to on YouTube if you want to. But we are currently working on several exclusive videos for YouTube. So please hit the subscribe button if you have not so far. You guys have been killing it in the past couple weeks. We've almost hit that 100 mark. So we can designate that custom URL. So we can do a / Straight Chillin' Podcast.
We have such meager goals. Thank you.
One,
for helping us meet them.
Which we didn't even realize was a goal until, I don't know, 4 or so weeks ago. So I appreciate all the support so far. We have almost hit that 100 mark.
New year, new us.
Yeah. Also, if you like video games, hit us up on twitch.tv / Straight Chilling Podcast. Been keeping that going on a weekly basis. I think I'm about to bump it up too. My work schedule is going to change. So been doing the weekly Twitch, but I'll probably be like going to, I don't know, at least a couple days a week once my work schedule goes back to normal. So that's nice.
Cool. Last bit of housekeeping, I believe anyways. We're still doing the Q&A section on episode 200, which is 2 weeks away. If you've got any questions for any of us on the show regarding horror or otherwise, send them on in to us through one of our social media platforms, and the questions will be addressed on episode 200. Oh yeah. That's it for housekeeping. Did I forget?
We've got some good questions so far, by the way. Yeah. Not, just to kind of throw out there. We'll have to.
Yeah,
gotta squeeze them in
around,
now
guys.
too. We'll have to. We're on a limited time. We're running out of tape here. We got.
It's true. It's very expensive to record on tape and totally unnecessary, but we do it anyways because it's necessary.
No, I'm just fucking around. We do have some good questions, but we'll record a 5-hour episode if we need to. If we got to get through the questions, we're gonna get through the questions.
Yes, we are.
Send them in.
You know what else we're gonna get through? What we've been watching this week. Randy, what have you been watching?
Let's see. Well, it's been a couple weeks since I've been on, but the things that are springing into mind are a couple of documentaries that I watched recently. I guess a lot of people have been watching them because I've seen it mentioned all over. But the Fire Fraud on Hulu.
I watched the Netflix one.
See, there's 2 of them. They even mention it in the documentary that there are 2 documentaries about this subject, which I think was hilarious.
I am unaware of either of these things. Please tell me.
So, for those who don't know, Justin, are you familiar with the Fire Festival that happened a couple of years ago or last year, maybe? So,
I don't think so.
Fire
Fest, risky business.
Oh, it is. Fyre Fest was like this huge internet sensation, basically, that was a result of Ja Rule and some fucking rich frat dude.
Okay, yes, I remember.
You're familiar
now.
with this? Okay, so it's a festival that didn't exist, and they sold.
Yeah, once you said Ja Rule, and them bitches were out like eating PB&J sandwiches.
Not even, man. They were eating sandwiches in their custom villas, aka FEMA tents. So that shit was like a huge moment in time. At least I was like loving it. I was reveling in it, and to a little bit of my shame, because you shouldn't be happy that people are in a desperate situation where they might die. But the entire world was just like this Schadenfreude came out. Schadenfreude came out where people were like just so stoked to see these theoretically rich white kids like get completely duped by an even richer whiter kid. And Ja Rule for some reason.
That's the icing on the cake for me. It's like Ja Rule.
Dude, so this documentary covers the whole event and like just how fucked up it was. When I said supposedly rich white kids, because a lot of them were like most of the tickets, I think the average ticket price was like $1,000, which is a lot, but like that's still within the realm of affordability for people who want to go badly enough. And also they made the point in the documentary that it was like $1,500 was the average, and they were being promised unlimited drinks, fucking airfare, a private villa, and all this shit. interactions with celebrities.
That's a good deal.
In the Bahamas,
the documentary that I watched, just to compare and contrast on this one point, when they were talking about price points on the tickets, they're talking like up to $250,000 depending on what you wanted.
That's true. They did go up to that point, and that's because they realized how fucked they were for selling the tickets for so little.
Yeah.
That they started like having specials or like giving like VIP extra like basically fucking selling the same ticket for insane exorbitant prices by marketing it differently and like saying it's a private reception, all sorts of shit. So yeah, there were I think at least one set of tickets that went for $250,000. 250.
Like that just seems like the most basic math to me too. Like, oh shit, we sold too many of these tickets to have to get up to $250,000 to compensate it.
Yeah.
Like, god damn, come on, guys.
I mean, the whole series of events is so shocking and ridiculous that I am definitely going to watch that other Fyre Festival documentary, even though this one kind of shat on it a little bit.
Really? The Netflix one was super entertaining. I haven't seen the Hulu one, obviously, but it was like, I knew, just based on like the internet being in existence, I knew about the Fyre Festival and that it was kind of a shit show, but I didn't know like to what degree it was a shit show. And when you're watching these people land on these like private jets and they're getting off this really pretty island in the Bahamas, and then they're taking buses and getting shuttled to their campsite, and it literally,
it's a gravel pit.
Yeah, it looks like a halfway constructed fucking ghetto that's like rained on, and there's like mud, and there's like not enough water.
There's mattresses just chilling on the side of the road.
People just start like basically looting like throughout the night.
Yeah.
There's no direction and nobody knows what's going on. They don't know where their luggage is. It's
their
just
luggage
like
was delivered on
hell
the back
on
of a
earth.
fucking semi in the dark. It was so great.
There wasn't even any kind of concert or anything. When there's
everybody backed out because they didn't get fucking paid.
Nobody showed
up. They couldn't pay their acts.
No,
it's
they couldn't
crazy.
pay anybody. They were so deep in the hole.
So where did all the money go?
It kept like being shifted. They're like, okay, well now that this con is falling apart, we got to con some other way to get money to fund this con.
Damn.
And like it was fucking ridiculous. And like I said, this documentary was interesting because it had the guy who was in charge of marketing it for the Fuck Jerry Enterprise. And Fuck Jerry Enterprise, those guys were involved in making the Netflix documentary.
Yeah.
But this guy worked for them, and he's like, fuck those guys. They're taking no responsibility for this, but we knew something was wrong. Like, this guy was, I don't know. I thought that was fucking great. They're like, I don't know. And like, they basically disavowed any wrongdoing, and they're putting it all on this one dude who definitely should be held accountable, but Ja Rule has got to take some responsibility. Like,
yeah,
it's just.
Did you on your documentary? There's like after everything has occurred, like the core team has this sort of conference call, and Ja Rule, you hear his voice come over the speaker, but he's not sitting in the room. And one of the guys in the room, he's like, this is essentially fraud. We like knowingly and willingly at some point throughout this process lied to everybody who bought tickets. And Ja Rule's like, nah, this isn't fraud. This is just like. It's like false advertisement. It's like, no, the definition of fraud is what you just did.
Is fraud.
You like bold-faced lied to a bunch of people and took their money and knew that you couldn't provide.
You took their money for a festival on an island that they had never been to, that didn't exist. They didn't buy an island until well after like half the tickets were sold. They didn't even buy an island. They just found a lot next to a resort.
It seems like these people are like so wealthy that they're stupid. Like they're too rich that they're just dumb.
I think this dude, Billy McFarland, the guy who is sort of the center of it all, the bro guy I mentioned, he's a compulsive liar, and he's an egomaniac. The one I'm in, like they spend a long time sitting with him, and he's like defending himself, and then he just can't anymore. He's like, I can't talk about that. It's fucking great. It's so great. It's again the Schadenfreude of like, God, I love to see these fucking smarmy rich dickbags get their comeuppance.
Well, I mean, did they though?
Well, he did anyway.
He went to jail. Yeah.
Okay. Well, then that's good. Then great. Yeah. I was wondering, like, did they just walk away?
He went to jail.
He got out on bail,
And while he was on bail, he started another con and then got busted for that.
Oh my
He went
God.
back to jail.
Jesus.
Fucking idiot.
It's I recommend it. Fire Fraud on Hulu, and then I don't know what the other one's called.
It's just called Fire, F-Y-R-E.
Gotcha. Two of them. This happened, I think, like a year ago. This is not.
I actually think it was probably closer to 2 years. Like coming up on this summer, once we hit summer 2019, it was probably about 2 years ago.
Anyway, I didn't mean to monopolize what you've been watching, but that shit blew my mind.
Yeah. Anything else, Randy?
Aside from that, there was one other documentary I watched about a guy who compulsively went to not compulsively, but went to the Price is Right like forever for like 30
Damn.
and like went on, like his name got called once and he won a little bit of money but not enough, but he memorized all the prices. And you know how people like yell out suggestions from the audience? He was helping people, and he helped a guy get the exact number on the showcase or whatever.
Nice.
And they detailed the situation. Drew Carey's like, I thought somebody was fucking with me. I thought somebody was trying to ruin the show because they loved Bob Barker so much or something. He's like, it was fucking hilarious. And the guy is just like this huge dork, and that's it. Like, he's just a dork, and he was like the center of a controversy for like a few days. And it's like, no, he's just a fan. He just memorized all the prices and could tell us to the dollar what it was.
Yeah, and of course, there's somebody like that. You know, I mean, Price is Right has been on like how fucking long?
It's an institution.
Yeah, I mean, of course, there's one guy who has memorized every.
And he's not the only one. He's just the one that goes that often, I guess, to help out. And now he's not, and he's banned from there now, I think. And like, I don't know. That might not be true. I might be misremembering that. But the whole thing, it was just like the guy talking. He was interviewed quite a bit, and it was so funny because it's so clear that he is just a giant fanboy. He's like every Comic-Con fanboy rolled into one, but focused on a fucking game show. It's great. It's so much fun to like watch him like detail all these little minor things that happened to him involving the show, and just be like, oh, it was so great, but he can barely contain how excited he is that he like gets to talk about his favorite hobby. It's so funny. It's great.
What's it called?
It's called, oh shit, what is it called? It's like I'll look it up while you guys start talking. Right. I'll come back around with it.
Juice, what you been watching?
Well, I'm glad Brandy had a lot because I haven't really been watching a whole lot. I tried to start watching that YouTube show, You. Have you watched it?
No, I haven't, but I've heard about it.
I couldn't get into it. It's got a little bit of this, like, I don't want to give too much away about it because I think it's like easy to spoil if you don't know much about it. I guess kind of the premise, but it tries to be like kind of dark and menacing, but it's just got this like kind of CW kind of flair, and that I just can't. For some reason, that flavor, I can't do it. Like even any of like people like go on even about like the superhero stuff, like Flash, and I just can't. Yeah, there's something about that style that I just can't get into. So it's kind of got that feel to it. So I didn't get too far into it. I don't know if I'll finish it because of that. I don't know. It had some interesting premises, but just that flavor, I don't know, turns me off. But so I was watching a little bit of that, and then I've been watching a lot of YouTube stuff lately. I'm a big music fan, and I found this really cool page that's called Color Studios. And they just do these like little shows with people. It's kind of like, like the Tiny Desk kind of thing where people come in and perform. NPR. It's kind of like that. Yeah, but they like people come in and they perform like different kind of versions of their songs. So it's got that kind of like interesting flair to it. But they do it in this room and it's all just like this one shade of color. So they'll change it.
Randy, you know of this, don't you? I think you showed it to me a while ago.
What is it called again? Because I've seen things like
Color Studios, or like the YouTube page is just called Colors, like in all caps. But when the prompt comes up, it says Color Studios, and essentially like somebody goes into this room and they like change the color every time, and it's like this cube. It essentially looks like they're staying in like this colored cube, performing. And so I've been watching a lot of that because a lot of artists I like have performed on there. Like I said, they do different versions of their songs. So it's not just like a typical kind of straight up concert. It's got an interesting kind of flair to it. But I've been watching a lot of that, and it's just like a really kind of nice aesthetic too. That fucking Cube room is like, I don't know, it's very soothing and peaceful. And I've been watching some more Nardwuar, dude. I talked about Nardwuar a while back, but that dude, I love that guy's interviews. They are so great. And I didn't realize, apparently at one point too, he was like doing like actors too, because the ones I watch now are like all musicians and rappers. But I saw one where he was like interviewing like Seth Rogen, and he was like blowing Seth Rogen's mind. Like he was like saying shit about Seth Rogen. He was like, how the fuck do you know this? I love, like, he like blows everybody's mind every time. And it's like really funny. And he's always giving gifts. Like, he seems like the nicest fucking guy. He's super weird, but he's really weird. But he like always knows like super intimate details, like people's like first grade teachers' names and like their childhood friends and shit. Like, seriously, like people are always like, how do you know this? Like,
he just calls their moms. I bet
probably. Yeah, that he's just plowing all these moms.
Big secret. Oh man, goddamn. He might be dead within the hour.
So yeah, that's just a lot of YouTube content, music wise mostly.
Or just for anyone who is interested, the name of that documentary of The Price is Right is called The Perfect Bid. So
Perfect Bid.
Nice. I watched a couple things I want to talk about. First, I went to the Cry for the Badman premiere yesterday at Sunrise Cinema here in Jacksonville, Florida. If you listened to our episode last week, we had the director Sam Farmer on to talk about his movie Cry for the Badman. And the premiere went really well yesterday. It was a sold-out theater. Everybody was like really engaged in the movie. There was a lot of like applause and oohs and ahs and laughing, and everybody just seemed to be like very into it. There was a brief Q&A afterwards, and Camille Keaton, who's the star of the movie, was there. Really, all the actors and actresses were there. Camille was the star of I Spit on Your Grave from the 70s, which I still haven't seen. I guess I need to watch it. But anyway, everybody was there and answering questions afterwards. And then we went across the street to a bar, and there was like an after party, and everybody was just kind of hanging out. And it was like a really good time. Everybody was like really supportive, and it felt like a really nice kind of community event. And the after party was sponsored by like the Jacksonville Film Commission and everything. It's just everybody felt like they kind of came together to support this guy and his movie, and the cast and crew. And, you know, they're going to take it on like the whole festival circuit throughout the year. And whenever they actually release more information on that, I'll make sure to mention it. So in case they come to a town near you, you can roll out and check out Cry for the Badman. I recommend it. It's good. Good stuff.
Awesome. That's good to hear. Unfortunately, we did an interview last week, and you can listen to it completely on the podcast, and everything's great at the end of last episode. But we shot a video, and Randy wasn't on, so the like portions are off or were off. So Rob like had it sitting, I guess, in the middle of his table because he had Sam on one side and Rob on the other side. So it's just the middle of Rob's table with not Rob in the shot, not Sam in the shot, just Rob's table. So I was like, well, I'm not going to post that because we have the audio.
Fuck. So,
unfortunately, we don't have that video because I fucked up. Really, Randy fucked up, but you know.
Excuse me. I'm sorry that I'm the keystone for your whole operation, but
you are, Randy.
If you can't keep it together without me, then what are you gonna do?
It falls apart.
So there is no video of that interview, but it is a good interview. You should check it out if you haven't yet.
Yeah, definitely. I also watched another movie called Dry Blood, which is a Dread Central Presents movie. They put out all kinds of indie horror stuff, and I try to keep up with the movies that they're putting out because they're pretty good. Terrifier was the big one they put out last year. They put out some other stuff that I really like that I've already talked about. Dry Blood was really good too, though. It's this guy who's he's an addict. He's addicted to like heroin and alcohol and various other things. He tries to get clean, so he goes to this remote cabin that's owned by his family. And he just kind of like holds up there. and he starts hallucinating and seeing ghosts and like gruesome imagery, and you're not sure if it's because he's trying to get clean and he's just going through withdrawals, and because of that he's seeing these things. But then at some point in the movie he starts using again, and you're like, well, maybe he's been using the whole time, and you just can't really trust this narrator. And he's hallucinating because he's been high the whole movie, and then like other people start showing up and you don't know if they're like really there. It's just like it's the way it's presented is just like you're questioning the movie the whole time, and then at a certain point it gets very gruesome in a way that I did not anticipate, and in a way that I feel like most commercial movies wouldn't be able to do. It's surprising and shocking, and I would definitely recommend Dry Blood. It's good.
Cool. That sounds like a really interesting premise.
Yeah.
It's
kind of got like an Oculus flair a little bit, or like it kind of sounds like you don't know what the fuck's going on.
Yeah, it's it turns out to be a lot more than you think it's going to be come the end of it. And it's like, I don't know, as far as like indie horror, it's solid. I recommend checking it out. Show some love.
Intriguing. Dry Blood.
Dry Blood.
That's it for what I've been watching. Let's go ahead and get into the main event and talk about Glass. The back of the box is as follows.
Does it say there's only 3 ways to pay? Ass, glass, or grass?
Actually, that's all it says. That's it.
I told you, man. And I know I can copyright the shit out of this movie.
Damn. IMDb getting kind of weird with it. Glass 2019 from director M. Night Shyamalan. Security guard David Dunn uses his supernatural abilities to track Kevin Wendell Crumb, a disturbed man who has 24 personalities. So this is obviously the third installment in M. Night's trilogy of Unbreakable, Split, and Glass. Gentlemen, obviously we have not seen this movie before because it's brand spanking new. Real quick rundown, were you excited going into this, and would you recommend people go out to the movie theater to watch Glass? Juice, would you kick us off, please?
Well, we've touched on it before. Old Shyamalan, we've got a quite the relationship with this man.
He's our butcher.
Me in particular, he's addicted to those damn twists, and it's just like, I feel like he's like a friend that like uses and lets you down sometimes, but he's a good friend. Like, he's got some really good qualities, and sometimes you just gotta like pat him on the back and be like, you're addicted to those damn twists, guy, come on, just make a damn regular movie. But so I tried to keep it like, I even tried to, talk Rob off the cliff and everything. Come on, Rob, not a top 10 already, beginning in 2019. So I tried to go in, with low expectations. And I think when I got out of the movie, my response was, I'm whelmed. I'm not underwhelmed. I'm not overwhelmed. Like, I'm fine. So...
that's an interesting response.
All right.
Yeah, I don't like
hoping.
I don't feel like I have to like do a strong recommend for the theater in particular. Like I don't want to like sway people from seeing this movie, but there's nothing about the movie going experience that's like a must for me. Like, I saw it and like I'm fine that I did. I don't regret the money that I paid for it, but it like just as easily I could have watched it like on streaming or on video in like 3 months, and that would have been just fine too.
Cool. Randy, how do you feel?
I think I agree with the idea. I don't. This movie doesn't do anything visually that to me screams for a person to go into a theater. I don't think it hurts though. I mean, to me, there's not a whole lot of movies out right now that are of interest to me, and it was an easy choice. Even if I wasn't doing the podcast, I probably would have chosen this movie to go see if I'm going to see it.
That's true. That's a good point. Like, there's nothing else out.
I think the magnet, the thing that's going to pull people to the seats the kind of people that are going to be drawn and magnetized to this movie are people who are fans of Unbreakable. So if you liked Unbreakable, or you have an interest in... Even I would say if you have an interest in comic book movies, check it out. But otherwise, like it's not doesn't really scream for you to go out and see it, and it's totally fine to wait and It's not got the kind of twist that I think you could easily be spoiled on. It's not Snape killed Dumbledore sort of situation. So,
Whoa.
I know, man. That damn Dumbledore. Yeah, I think it's a soft recommend for the theater, but a recommend for the movie in general.
Dumbledore.
Damn Dumbledore. Okay, sorry. That's like a 6-year-old meme.
Yeah, I was pretty stoked to watch this, despite Justin's trying to talk me off the ledge there. I don't know. Yeah, it's worth watching, especially if you've seen the first two. But if you waited to watch it streaming or rent it or whatever, that's fine. You don't really need to like rush out and watch it. However, it seems like everybody is, because this movie's made a fuck ton of money, like over 100 million already or something crazy like that. Yeah,
my theater was full.
Yeah, mine was pretty packed out.
Mine was not. I don't think this is going to be a big hit in Korea.
Yeah, I guess I could see that.
I don't think so.
So I guess that's 3 soft recommends from the Straight Chillin' crew there.
Real soft.
So soft. Just recommend. Oh God. Anyway.
It's the Gouda of recommends.
It's the goat cheese. Yeah, let's drop the spoiler warning and get into Glass. Let's do it, boys and gals.
So real quick, going off talking Rob off the ledge, just to start off, I hope it's possible, I guess, but I really hope that this movie doesn't make Rob's top 10 of 2019.
As of
it's
right
possible.
Now, unless you gentlemen change my mind, fuck this movie.
Oh, wow.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
really
wow.
Like yeah.
Oh, okay.
Not a fan.
Okay.
Wow.
Well, then it shouldn't be making that top 2. Man, this movie, I'm not going to say fuck it, but I couldn't bring myself to give a damn.
I concur strongly.
I just, as I was sitting there, I was like, and it was I had that feeling of like a friend kind of or something, and I'm just like, man, Shyamalan, you have let me down in the past, and I'm not going to kick you for this one. And it's kind of a shame that it makes a lot of money because it doesn't deserve that. But I was like, man, this movie, it's not bad. It's just kind of a wet fart,
Yes.
Damn.
Yeah. I feel very similar.
Oh no. Oh man.
What's wrong?
I'm gonna be arguing in favor of this fucking movie, aren't I?
Right.
Oh no.
I mean, the thing is,
I did not anticipate that.
I'm so lukewarm on this movie that I'll say some good things, and then I'll say the bad things, and really the bad things. The thing is, it doesn't even have it's not even bold enough that the bad things are like interesting choices. That's kind of the letdown of it. It's like you didn't even swing for the fences, like this third movie after like a 10 long period where you're like, I'm gonna finish this, and you came out like boom, Split, like holy shit, really like coming back into your whole twist kind of thing, like. And then this movie, like, you didn't take any risk. Like, you really it was so fart sniffy by the end of it that I was just like, God damn it.
So, like, the first 2 movies, Unbreakable and Split, I like them both a lot. I think most people do enjoy those movies if you're into this kind of movie. But what made them very interesting, at least for me, is like they were kind of cool character studies, right? Like, you're introduced to these people who are very interesting in various ways. And then you got the third movie that comes out, and you kind of already know all the characters at play, with the exception of like a couple, like Sarah Paulson, and I guess she's like the big new character that's introduced that I don't care about at all. So, but the people in this movie already, you're familiar with them. So this is like the big climax, the culmination of everything you've seen before. You expect a lot of action, or at least I did. So naturally, what you would want to do is you'd immediately want to take all those superheroes that you've introduced people to and then put them in a building and lock them away where they can't fucking do a damn thing for half the movie. And then you try and convince them that they're not actually superheroes.
Dude,
more than half.
And
then
you
they
get
get out
the
and you get 10 minutes of action and the movie ends.
Yeah,
you're like, like, what's the fucking point? What's the fucking point of this movie?
Maybe
There's
like
no
20
point.
minutes of action. And that's actually a really good point that you made. It's like going into this movie, like we know these characters and they still do good as those characters.
Yeah,
but
the acting is solid.
Yeah, you're bringing nothing new to the table. I didn't even honestly like consider that, but that's
Except
really
for Sarah
really
Paulson and like her little group of 3-leaf clover motherfuckers that fuck them. They're not interesting.
Yeah, it's
or
like
cool
you're right.
or,
It's like the biggest cock tease. Like you're just like, yeah, you just stuff these people in an isolation room most of the time.
Yeah.
Not only are they in a building, they're not even together. Like they see each other across the hallway sometimes, but like they're literally in a room alone for a majority of this movie.
It's a bad choice in story to like in the trilogy. It's a bad choice to do anything at all that happened in this movie, I think. Except for like the first 10 minutes and like maybe the last 15 like of a 2-hour movie. It's just most of it was kind of nothing, man.
It really was. God damn it. It's going to lower my score. I was going to come into this like pretty lukewarm, but now I'm getting kind of pissed off. Fucking Shyamalan.
Yeah. I kind of like when it first started, I was like intrigued because there's like a short little battle scene, you know.
Yeah.
Like, okay, cool. Some neat action. The beast is already coming out.
And not even that.
Up.
You had some new dynamics. Like one of the positives I'll mention is like when you first get into it, you see like, okay, where are these characters now? And you see old Bruce Willis and like his son has gotten in on it. And he's like his sidekick. He's like he's the in the ear kind of guy. He's on the computer. He's got the tech smarts and stuff like that. And that was cool. I like that. And you kind of see where, you know, old Split is at and he's, you know, hanging out and he's got his thing going on and he's holding up his end of the deal. You know, he's doing his thing.
Kidnapping cheerleaders and feeding them PBJs.
And so you're like, okay. And then they have a little encounter and you're like, okay, yeah, I'm getting into this. And then they just rip it away. They just fucking rip all of that away. Fucking shit.
Yeah. And then they're in therapy, and you know, she's like, maybe you're not superheroes, guys, even though we spent 2 movies explaining that you absolutely are. And then
that's
come
the
the
thing,
end of it,
too.
She's like, psych, yeah, you are. Everybody knew it the whole time. You definitely
That's
are.
the thing.
Why even do that?
If you're going to base your movie off of that premise, like, oh, they're not really superheroes, you got to convince me, the viewer, who you just spent 2 movies convincing otherwise. Never at any point in this movie did I believe like they're not really superheroes or they don't really have those things. So I really just have to like drudge through these therapy sessions where they're trying to convince me, even though they're not, that they're not superheroes. I'm like, I know that that's not the thing. I know that
could have been ballsy if he had actually just done that. Like come the end, they're all crazy.
Sure, and that's what it kind of, I mean, like swing for the fences kind of thing. Like there was like once it was like, oh no, you really are superheroes. I was like, I know, like I know.
Duh. The first 2 movies showed that they
are, right?
So
I don't know, man.
Yeah, he didn't. That could have been kind of cool if you're just like, holy shit, they were crazy the whole fucking time. Or something.
Like something.
Well, then people would be bitching about the twist. So
sure.
Yeah, I know.
Just
I know.
Taking his idea and making it mean something, you know.
Yeah, we gotta let Randy talk a little.
Yeah.
Just letting you guys go because you're making some good points. And honestly, like, I'm conflicted about this movie. I'm still kind of conflicted, although you guys made some good points. Like, yes, like I don't believe that Shyamalan is going to invalidate the central thesis of both of his prior 2 movies in this series by taking away their powers. And if they did that, I would be pissed because that literally makes the other 2 movies less good. And that's not what you want out of any sequel. So take that, put that complaint right on the table right away. I think that pinning them up in the psych ward, again, not a great idea because it limits your scope. It limits what you can do. Although I understand, I like the idea of his was to bring back into the fold this question of, are these people actually super people? Do super people really exist? Are they just being inconvenienced and they'll break out or something and then the real show will start? but it just kind of contains them for the entire movie, the entire movie, and that's frustrating. And they don't
get
to
on the front lawn a little bit.
You don't even get Elijah monologue until the latter or the middle of the third act. I don't think
he actually doesn't even speak.
Yeah, that's fucked up. And I like watching fucking McAvoy do Hedwig as much as anybody, but at a certain point it gets to be just goofy, and because it's all comedic effect and very little actual threat anymore. So I'm a little fucking worn out by that. I did like the idea of this series, though. The central conceit is that what if superhero, like, super abilities actually existed, and how would the world confront that? How would, like, things, and this movie tries to answer that. And it actually, I got pissed at it once we realized that Sarah Paulson's group was like an anti-superhero group or something, and that they believed not just in superhuman powers, but they also believed that in the comic book aspect of it, which is batshit crazy. Like the Elijah Price thing, that makes sense for one guy who was obsessed with comics his whole life to characterize superhuman abilities as in the vein of comic books, and that these are tomes of the past and all this shit, relics of an ancient truth and all that shit. That guy should believe that. There should not be a whole organization of people dedicated to stomping out their fully aware knowledge that thing exists, and also proclaiming that comic books are real. We are the only ones that know it. They should be like, it's like S.H.I.E.L.D. doesn't go around saying, like, we need to collect all these comic book heroes so that they can help us save the world. Fucking S.H.I.E.L.D. doesn't do that shit, because they just, like, all right, there's these amazing people that have fucking abilities that we can't, like, we can't measure up to. So let's conglomerate them or whatever. Like, all that shit, it goes out the window. People, like, it's like how, it's that idea that people, if a zombie outbreak broke out 10 years ago, nobody would have called them zombies. They would have been like, I think there's zombies, and people would be like, cool, and they wouldn't believe you because it's so stupid. It's the same thing. It's like I understand that it's a love letter for comics, and I think that's like the whole central conceit of this movie as well, which makes sense because it's a movie called Glass, and it's supposed to be about Elijah Price, but he doesn't fucking speak for most of it. We only those, like, comic book aspects through the lens of other characters who are coming around that way of thinking, like the tertiary characters for each of our three people: Elijah's mom, Anya Taylor-Joy, and son of Dunn. And, like, it doesn't feel right. He should be the one monologuing about how this is the truth, and these other people should be, like, reckoning with that truth in their own way, like, and not ready to, like, to characterize it the way he does. That doesn't make sense to me, but it kind of, like, it got me mad in that way, and then it kind of circled back to sort of an interesting question that they didn't really land on, which is this movie kind of, and it's kind of hits on a similar theme to, like, the Civil War comics and the Civil War movie, which is, like, how is the world going to reckon with super people existing, and should they be subdued? And in this movie, it says no, they shouldn't be. But, like, if somebody has superhuman abilities, isn't it in the public interest to keep those abilities subdued, or is it not? Like, that question is, I think, one of the most interesting questions in all of comic storytelling, because, like, the way average people, the way you and I would, like, react to Dr. Manhattan walking down the fucking street is way more engaging than seeing fucking Superman shake a bunch of burglars out of a car. Like, it's way more engaging than, I don't know. It's the most interesting concept in comics to my mind that springs to my mind that's uniquely comic driven, comic book centric. And they kind of come close to that with this fucking 4-leaf clover, Cult of Thorn sort of thing they're doing. But it's unrealized. Those people, they are, like, the world becomes more and more comic booky, and that's, I guess, the point. But it becomes unbelievable that other people would react this way. Not just that, like, Elijah was right in some capacity. He should be right in some capacity because we've been told he's right in some capacity. But he should. I don't know. I wanted that cult thing to be more. I wanted that. I wanted them to have, like, if they're gonna be there, which I could have done without them easily, but they're there, and we should have definitely gotten to hear more from them about what their point of view on this whole thing is. I don't know. I like
the angle that this this comic book cult people, like they meet for some reason. They only congregate in public places and just wait for people who aren't part of their organization to leave before they
Yeah.
Like what? Go to a fucking conference room. What are you doing?
Yeah, like I don't know, man. I don't know.
Now we can speak freely.
Yeah, there's so many misses on. Because now I'm thinking about like, oh, you know, it's Glass. Like, should it have been like Elijah dealing with like his doubt of like actually being special? Like there wasn't. I guess it was more of old Split. Like he had the biggest doubt, I guess, because like his. Because he's got the different like, so that was kind of interesting. Like, so old Split, he's got the beast, and his whole thing is like some of his like sub personalities like worship the beast. So their whole like lack of faith in the beast was kind of interesting. Like that, like I don't know, man. I was gonna try to defend this movie, but it's hard. It's hard.
The problem is this movie has a lot of potential. Like it has a lot of alleyways that it just glances by instead of exploring. Yeah. About that you could focus on and make interesting and give this movie some interest, but it never really follows any of them. It just sort of like I said, the marching orders for this movie is superheroes are real. We're gonna try and make our audience doubt it, despite 2 movies claiming otherwise. And then at the end, it's going to reveal to the world that that's the case. And that's Elijah Price's whole plan. If that's Elijah Price's plan, that's great. And I love that we didn't know for sure that was his plan right away, or it was kind of obfuscated a little bit. Yeah. Maybe not even all that much. But I like that concept. But to pin them into a fucking mental institution to make those questions arise, I don't know. Those questions are not necessary. The question should be, to me, like if they really want to focus on anything, it should be, is it right for us to be vigilantes? Is it Dunn's right to be a vigilante, or is he just another version of old Split, following his own nose and imposing his will on a populace that can't stop him? Like,
and here's the thing. Here's the 2 movies like prior, which are great, both Split and Unbreakable. So, yeah, you have this first movie where, you know, this super villain is revealed and he's like, there's a polar opposite and, you know, you're strong, but you got this weakness. I'm like really weak, but I'm like super smart. And like, okay, like you get these characters and that's like standalone film and the twist like kind of works, but it's not like too big of a twist where it's like, you know, I don't know. And then you get Split, and that's its own thing too, which kind of confirms the previous movies. You get this new character, and it stands alone, like on its own too, and you don't even realize it's connected to the end of the movie. But then that even kind of reaffirms, like, yep, superhero, like, yep, this world exists. Like, look, we just saw this guy bend bars. He's crawling all over the walls. He's doing this shit. Like, okay, yep. And then, so the only new thing that you add in this third movie, like the only claim to it, like none of those characters change. Like those characters are the same characters that they were in the previous 2 movies, with maybe a little bit of doubt and like
Split grew.
Yeah.
He grew the ability to, or Kevin, the Kevin persona, the original persona, by the end of the movie is able to maintain control. Yeah. That's the growth he experiences. You're right, though. The other 2 people don't. They don't have any growth.
They don't change. And so the only new element is this new group. But he relies on that to be the twist. So we don't even get to. So it could have been interesting if that was like the 4th character, or like this is like their kind of movie. But they don't show up until the last maybe 10 minutes. And you get 0 information on them. They're not interesting I wouldn't even know what to call them. Like the
3-leaf clover motherfuckers.
Cloverfield? Like, I mean, like
what? Thorn.
Like, I don't even know.
What if this movie tied into Cloverfield? Ooh, that would be a good twist.
No,
it would. And then, and the thing that is so shitty about it is like, they show it like, oh, this guy's got a clover on his wrist. Okay. And you're like, okay, so is this guy like a super, like he's like some like Deadshot or something? He's like always bullseye. He's always shooting people or whatever. And then, oh, Sarah Paulson, like she's got the clover, and it becomes nothing. It's like I couldn't even describe it to you. It's like
there's like kind of a reveal in this movie that was very well advertised in Split, and we talked about it on our Split episode. Actually, it's like, oh, Kevin Wendell Crumb's father was on the train that crashed, and he died in the train accident, and that's why his mother was abusive to him as a kid. And basically Mr. Glass created both these characters, both of these superheroes, in like one train accident. And
I honestly forgot about that.
It's like, yeah, everybody kind of knows that already. So like, cool. Like that didn't have any impact at all.
I already forgot. And like his whole model, like I create superheroes, like none of it did anything for me. I was like, I don't care anymore. I've been sitting here for like 2 hours, Shyamalan. I don't care anymore. Like, you haven't delivered the goods.
Another thread that they kind of laid out in this movie, whenever Sarah Paulson's talking to Anya Taylor-Joy in her like little office, she's like, talking about like how people are obsessed with comic books, comic book culture, and she's like, ever been to Comic-Con? It's crazy. They're just trying to sell you stuff. And I thought there was going to be maybe some like grander allegory of like, pop culture gone fucking amok and people being obsessed with this shit. And maybe there is to some degree, but if there isn't, I don't know. I don't know that I could really distill it for you. And it obviously wasn't very impactful because like, there just seemed to be maybe a few little breadcrumbs thrown in this movie, and none of them were like really brought to their full potential. Maybe he just had to hammer this movie out too fast for its own good or something. Like there are some ideas floating around,
I don't think
but overall, it's just kind of a wet fart of a trilogy.
No.
Also, too, talking about Shyamalan kind of in the Friend kind of idea, where like, I know you've done some good shit, man. Here's the thing. No, hang on. He's like the friend who's like, oh man, your birthday's coming up. Oh, we're gonna have the best fucking time. I've booked this room for you. We're gonna have the VIP. Oh, we're gonna have chicks out there. We're gonna have bottles flying. And then he like throws you a damn like a fucking Little Caesars pizza party. Because here's the thing, he even like builds himself up. He's like, okay, I've made you sit through this fucking movie where these people have been sitting in rooms by themselves, and he even tells you, like, we're going to go to this tallest building and I'm going to explode it and I'm going to make you fight old Split, Unbreakable. You're going to fight him and it's going to be in the public eye and people are going to react. And you're like, wow, that's an interesting premise.
Yeah, thank God I've
sat through this fucking movie to get to that last 20 minutes. Nope. We're going to go to the front goddamn line.
See, that's the thing. That is a good point because it teases a huge blowout, which is, what you want. This is if the central thesis aren't comic books awesome, then why would you not? And you're going full blush in most other categories, but you didn't go full blush with a major action sequence involving the public. The way you reveal that, the only reason that ending would be a revelation for people, which, by the way, I'm speaking of when it turns out that they filmed it, and Mr. Glass's whole thing was that he filmed it and released it to the world, and then the world gets to see that super people exist despite the best efforts of the Cult of Thorn. Like, that only lands if you're more invested in people finding out that superhero. If you have the same obsession as fucking Elijah Price, it requires you to identify with his goals so much that you're happy to see that happen at the end, and instead of a big blowout which would accomplish the same thing and give you an opportunity for some other like way of thinking about the situation. I think, Rob, you made a great point, which is the first two movies are character studies more than anything. It's really focused on one person and them dealing with their world. And I know this movie kind of brings them all together, but it's called Glass, and it's supposed to be about Elijah. If you put him in a fake coma for most of the movie, like, nobody's surprised when he like comes around. Nobody's surprised when he has the edge.
Duh.
Like, give him the edge in the world. I had these like ideas for this movie myself when I was pretty blown away that they worked up this Split into a sequel to Unbreakable, and I was like, what could the next one be? And you've got Kevin Wendell Crumb, who is obsessed with the idea of being broken, like resulting in strength, and how like if you're not broken, you are scum, you aren't worthy of life, you aren't, only the people who have suffered should have the right to exist. And you've got fucking David Dunn, who's literally unbreakable. He's not able to physically be broken down. His whole thing is imposing will on these girls who have had good lives and trying to break them down and killing them for their crime of being privileged. What is he going to think when he sees this guy with a loving wife and his son, and who's going around physically unable to be stopped by even the person who is broken? What is that going to do to that guy? And how is Elijah going to harness that against David Dunn? And what is his goal going to be? You can still have the same goal. Elijah can still have the same goal of outing, like proving he was right to the world and proving that he has a place in the world. But that doesn't, like, you don't have to pin them in a cage for the whole time. You can give them things to do. You can play them like fucking chess against each other. Well, I don't know. And you can give Elijah the freedom to speak for most of the movie instead of not.
It also kind of betrays Elijah, too, because you made a good point, Randy. Like, the whole tease is like, I'm going to do this so superheroes are ousted. And the twist is nope, that wasn't his plan. He came up with a shittier plan to the same goal in which he knew he was going to die. Like, that doesn't even really fit Elijah. Like that doesn't really fit his character. Like, because... okay, if you're thinking about it from Elijah's point, it's like I could go to the tower, which I'm super smart, so I'm able to accomplish and oust that superheroes are real or whatever. Or we could just go to the front line and I'm going to secretly tape it and it's going to have the same goal, but like I'm going to die. Like that doesn't even make any sense.
I don't need them to go to the Osaka Tower for this movie to work. But like
I don't either.
I do think that him dying in service of his belief, I think that is something that is in character for Elijah for me. Like he has to know that at some point Kevin Crumb's going to figure out that his father was killed on the same train. That information's coming out, and he knows he's going to be turned on. That's why in that moment when David's kid is telling him this, Elijah's like, "Oh, you're not supposed to tell him now." Yeah, which I liked that. I liked that happened because that is comic booky, that the supervillains team up, but it's a tenuous relationship. They're supervillains, rather. They team up, but it's a tenuous relationship because both of them are so arrogant and so self-involved that they will cut and run in an instant. But Elijah, if his goal is to let people see them, there's better ways to do it that are more interesting than this fucking mental hospital. I got to think that maybe budgetary constraints had something to do with it. But also,
absolutely,
it pissed me off because the fucking trailer for this movie actually diminished all of my hype for this movie because it's like so centered on the fucking a hospital. And like, I don't know, the whole thing bummed me out in terms of the setting because I'm expecting some sort of blowout. I don't need like a one group therapy session in this hospital would have been an interesting moment for this movie. But
I was hoping that's what was going to happen, and there's going to be a lot more that they were playing close to the chest, and then the whole fucking movie's in the goddamn hospital.
Yeah.
And as far as budget goes, like I think I read on IMDb the budget for Split was $10 million. This budget was doubled to 20.
It was 20. He financed it himself.
Wow.
Apparently he does that with a lot of his movies, so he gets to have more the goal is for him to have a more creative control. It's riskier or whatever because you know you have this, but he did finance it himself so that he could have more creative control. So essentially, he made the movie he wanted to make.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate because
I don't understand, like just on a pure base level, I don't understand how at the end of this movie we're supposed to identify and be happy that the plans of a mass murderer went without a hitch and that all of our characters that we care about went along with it and are totally fine with it
are
now.
Dead.
Like,
they're all just dead.
Or dead.
Like,
oh yeah, by the way, we're supposed to be summing up this movie. Everyone dies.
Everyone dies. Like all three of the super people.
All the people you care about
it's
die.
like the biggest.
Yeah.
like that's fine, but they also do this thing where every one of them has at least one send-off, like dying breath scene, and it happens like sequentially. So it's fucking like it's a drag to watch that after 2 hours of the fucking hospital. It's like, oh, they're all literally dying now, and you sit there and watch them like come to whatever realization they're supposed to come to.
Not
like,
even by their own hands either.
Yeah,
like,
not even together. They don't even get to
some
talk
mystery question mark. Yeah.
They okay. Yeah.
All
fucking
right.
Sarah
my
Paulson.
opinion of this movie down quite a bit. But like,
that
here's
fucking
the thing.
character is terrible.
Positives for this movie is that it does touch on some of these ideas that I think are interesting. It does circle a few of these ideas without exploiting them, without exploring them enough, in my opinion. But like the idea of like whether or not super people should have the license to act, whether or not fucking Batman is an authoritarian, these are the questions that I'm interested in. And if you're trying to make a Watchmen style what if superheroes were real situation, make it about more than like, the truth is revealed and all is well and we're happy because that mass murderer we were talking to earlier, his plan went off really well, and not the Cult of Thorn, who we decided we didn't like.
Is that what they're called?
No. That's from Halloween 6.
Okay.
Which is also thrown in the last movie. It doesn't make any fucking sense.
Oh yeah. Okay. I was like, wait a second, Cult of Thorn. It's like
the Cult of Corn.
Okay, yeah, I gotcha. Yeah.
It just
where they worship him.
Yeah.
Instead, this whole movie like worships the idea of comic books, but it doesn't actually explore any of the interesting things that are in comics, nor does it revel in any of the actual like insane action that Avengers at least does that. It doesn't explore too much like the intricacies of how real people react to superheroes, which is something like it doesn't really bother itself with that too much, except in Civil War. But it's big ass action sequences like to hang your hat on at least. Like, at least there's that. If you don't like the movie, fine, but you can at least enjoy some action.
So I would suffice it to say, like, 90% of the choices, story-wise, that M. Night Shyamalan made in this movie were, like, poor choices. And then in the end, you only get maybe 20 minutes of action in a 2-hour movie. That's supposed to be the big grand climax of this trilogy.
And I don't even want to give them that out, though. I don't even want to give them that out because people say like, oh, if it can't be a big spectacle, it can't be worth anything. It's like, no,
that's not true.
And exactly, because like even like looking at Split, like Split wasn't a big spectacle, and that movie is great, and even like Unbreakable wasn't a big spectacle. So I don't want to like hang it all on like, oh, you didn't like it because they didn't go to the tower and like blow it all out. That's not the case. You're right. He made poor choices.
That could have saved it.
Nobody developed. Nothing interesting new was added to me. The main character who's supposed to be the thing can't speak. His plan is like not great. And also, once he starts talking, like it was just Shyamalan like jerking off to like his theory of comic books. And like some of it was just so dumb. Like this isn't like he's like this isn't a grand finale. It's like an origin story. So it's just some of it was just too like fourth wall winky, like, oh guys, look what I'm talking about. It's like, Shyamalan, fuck you, man. God damn it. like maybe I would have cared about what you had to say if you had like delivered on your promises of balling with hot ass bitches in the club. But this fucking Little Caesar shit is not chill, man. I don't even care what you have to say.
Yeah, that's a reference to your ridiculous fringe M. Night Shyamalan.
Absolutely.
Like, what M. Night did you expect, Justin?
This was going to be the Porky's of Shyamalan's directorial debut, right? Like,
God,
no, I think that this, it's a problem, this movie, because it doesn't fulfill either of the two main. It talks about comic books extensively, and it draws a connection as much as it possibly can, but it doesn't accept the two biggest components of that, which are what I was talking about, like the implications of superheroes in the real world, or the absurd action and over the top like hyper realism that's in comic books either. So it kind of like middles through everything. It middles everything, and like I didn't want this movie to be an action movie either, but I was like, okay, well if they go to Osaka Tower and it becomes a big brawl, I don't know if I'll love that, but it'll be better than them sitting in the fucking hospital any longer, and they never fucking have. So like that was, to me, that was the ripcord, and they ignored the ripcord. So like instead of having this awesome like intricate look into fucking Elijah Price's psyche and why he does what he does, dealing with his doubts, dealing with all that sort of shit, and then eventually seeing that his plan comes together, which is what I would have hoped had happened in some capacity, or like I start to. Instead of that, we get this thing that doesn't really commit to anything except the idea that superheroes exist and the world should know, and that's not enough. That's not a character that doesn't work on what made the other two movies good, which is a character study of somebody who has doubts and flaws and all these things. Elijah never doubts anything, and if he does, it's like clearly bullshit from our perspective. Like, we don't buy it. We don't get to hear him speak.
Do you guys want to I think we're starting to just say the same things over again. Is there anything else we need to cover before we rate this thing?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so either, honestly. Let's go ahead and get into it. Justin, why don't you kick us off? Out of 5, how do you feel about Glass?
Man, as talking through it has made me like it less.
Yeah. You're welcome.
Unfortunately. Another thing just that I'll bring up for my review, I think part of the frustrating thing of it too is it's all just such wasted potential too, because the actors, like, good job, you develop these characters that are interesting. You've got these 3 unique, very interesting characters, and some interesting side characters too. So all in all, you've got like 5 pretty deep in, like, I don't care about Mr. Glass's mom, to be honest, but like Anya Taylor-Joy and fucking Unbreakable's son, like, they're all interesting. And everybody, maybe not like Unbreakable's son, but everybody is a baller ass actor or actress. Like, you've got interesting, unique characters supported by a baller cast, and you just wet farted out, and that's so frustrating. Like, it just all feels like wasted potential, especially when, like, we dug on Unbreakable, and then you surprised us with Split. Like, we could have cared less about an Unbreakable trilogy like 10 years later, and then boom, you hit us with it, and we were like, oh shit, okay. Like, I'm on board with it. Like, Shyamalan, you've got the go. Like, we're giving you the green light. And you just fucking instead of taking us speeding down the highway, you take us to the damn parking lot, you know? Like, God damn it. Take us through the Mickey D's drive-through. Motherfuck. Just so
I want a Happy Meal.
I'm so frustrated. This guy, man. He just... And that's kind of been his history and my relationship with him. It's like, sometimes you really blow me away, and sometimes I can't understand where you're coming from. Like, you make seemingly the worst decisions, and that, unfortunately, this movie kind of fell in that latter half where. So I'm sorry. I'll give it a 2. I think I was coming in and going to give it a 50-50, 2.5, but I taught myself down. I'll give it a 2. Mainly just because luckily the actors and actresses are good enough, and he's still got these interesting characters. He just unfortunately doesn't do much with them, but that's where the positive comes from.
Yeah. All right. Randy, how do you feel out of 5?
I feel sick out of 5. No,
cool.
This, you guys talked me down. I don't know what I was going to give it exactly, but I was feeling pretty reasonably positive towards this movie with some serious complaints about it. But man, the complaints just really stacked up here. And I just don't think that I support this movie that much anymore. I wanted this movie to be so many things, and I got none of them. And not only was it a problem with my expectation, but I think it's a problem, like, it's just M. Night, man. It really is. He promised, to me, there was an implicit promise of a fucking interesting character arc from fucking Elijah Price that was expounding on stuff that we had seen before, but also introducing some new concepts, as well as potentially some nice, a few nice action sequences, which we did get, but they were also fucking undercut by the fact that they didn't feel climactic because they didn't end where the climax was. We were told the climax was going to happen over and over again. like they got outside of the building, and then we fucking get a climax. I'm like, oh shit, they're done. Oh, they're not gonna go. They're not gonna go. What the fuck? So I don't like. It just doesn't, like I said before, it doesn't really swing for the fences in any of the directions I would have hoped. Instead, it settles for a pretty mediocre point, if you'd even call it that. It's sort of pointless. This movie doesn't have a point, whereas it seems like it had a lot of fucking potential to go down a thoughtful and complex alley, the way that the other two movies kind of did. The idea of Split, of a guy who was broken down so much that he now feels fucking, I don't know, empowered physically and mentally to exact revenge on people who are happy. Like, that's an interesting character. Fucking, and it's the person who breaks through to him is a woman who has her own scars physically and emotionally. I think that's interesting. Then you've got David Dunn, who's a guy who's dealing with fucking a wife who's estranged from him because he, like, I don't know, I'm not going to go and break down those movies, but you get the idea that there should have been something more happening here besides Elijah Price wants the world to know that he's smart and that superheroes exist. There needs to be something going on. First of all, like, Elijah needs to be able to speak, and he doesn't get to. And we get to hang our hat on a bunch of tertiary characters who are fine and good, and some are reasonably well acted, but they're not given any real point to what they do that couldn't be established other ways. I don't know. I guess I'm reeling from all the negativity I'm feeling towards this. Positives. Like Justin said, the cast is good. And they do a good job. They're just not given a whole lot. They're literally not given anything to do for a while, especially Samuel L. Jackson. And like by the end of the movie, it just doesn't feel climactic in any way, emotionally or like in terms of spectacle. Neither of those things feel like a climax. And then you get this new element of the Cult of Thorn, and I don't care about this cult. And they're operating the way they operate, and why they operate doesn't make sense to me because we never get any sort of real explanation besides, you're right, comic books are real, and we're here to stop comic books from happening. It's like, well, that's so ridiculous. That's like preposterously stupid. Why don't you just say we're here to keep like people with insane powers in check? Just put it that way instead of like appealing towards this comic book idea. It just makes the comic book idea less of Elijah's. It's Elijah's mythos that he's building. Why are we spreading it to other people so much? Why? Or I don't know. David maybe, but not these. Like, I don't know. I just don't know. I'm giving it a 2.5.
2.5 from
Randy. Yeah, the reason that it's 2.5 is because it's well acted, and because I liked some of the elements, like having David Dunn's son being the Watch Kid. I liked the setup. I really like the setup. It just really went every wrong turn, I think, from the first act on.
Cool. I'm going to give this a 1. I didn't like this movie. It's a bad movie.
Rob, I tried.
The choices, I don't understand the choices that were made. Fucking Shyamalan, he nunned this fucking movie. He went none all over this.
I don't know about that.
What I mean when I say that is
it's of higher quality than that movie.
No. Let me finish what I'm saying. It's like everything that made The Nun scary in The Conjuring 2, everything that made that character work, they totally flushed down the fucking toilet in the movie The Nun. He took everything that worked in his first 2 movies. He was like, you know what? Fuck all that. I'm gonna lock all these interesting bitches up in a little like hospital, and then like the dude who's smart can't say anything, and the dudes that are strong can't fucking do anything. Like, just fuck all that interesting stuff. They can only
talk to Sarah Paulson, a new character who
isn't interesting.
It's just
in any way.
She is only a wet blanket.
Yeah, maybe you guys aren't what you think you are. Maybe you're not what those first 2 movies completely sold you as being. Maybe that's interesting, right? No, it's not. No, it's fucking not.
I think it's an interesting question that you could have somebody ask, but just not spend the whole movie asking it, and not from this one character that we don't care about.
Yeah, it's Sarah Paulson.
It should
seems
be
like a really cool person, but that character is awful, and your whole cult is stupid.
I want to hear Rob's rant. I want it to go. Go, Rob. Go.
Get this weird therapist lady out of this movie. Get her cult out of this movie. Get this stupid psychiatric hospital out of this fucking movie. Let these 3 characters have the climax that we were promised they were going to have. Let them like come to blows. Let the 2 bad dudes team up and create some sort of crazy scheme and then let them at the end of the movie actually like fight it out because, hey, you killed my dad and that made my mommy beat the shit out of me or whatever. Like, let all that kind of actually matter. In the way it was presented in this movie is nothing matters. Not a single thing that happens in this movie fucking matters, like really at all. At a certain point, I thought David Dunn's son, because like as Elijah, whatever his fucking Elijah is like dying.
The origin thing.
Yeah, he's like, this has been an origin story. This whole thing is an origin story. He's like, oh, fucking his son, David Dunn's son. He's gonna like Hulk out and kill all these dudes with guns, and he's gonna be bulletproof or some shit. No, he's just a kid, and he cries, and it's sad. And you're like, I don't know, man. Maybe that's kind of the point, but then it's not. So maybe like the actual point of this movie is like, superheroes aren't real, comic books aren't real. You're all being sold this lie. You're all obsessed with like pop culture and you're being brainwashed. But then at the end, it's like, no, that's not what he's saying, because the video gets out and everybody's supposed to feel empowered because they see these other people who are super strong and they're supposed to believe in themselves and like see what they can do. So it's like you're kind of starting to make a point, but then you flush that down the toilet too. Nothing matters. Not a single thing in this fucking movie matters at all. It's bad. It's a bad movie. The acting is great, and it looks pretty. Bloody freaking da, man.
I think
I give it a aggregate 1.8.
I needed that rant. I needed it. I've gone off on.
Can we talk about?
I've gone off on Shyamalan myself, and we've railed on this movie enough. I needed the rant from Rob.
There's some I don't know if we want to spend time on it or not, but I just have to say there are some serious flaws of logic of how these things would play out. Why the fuck isn't David Dunn's son arrested in correlation to being the of his father, who was found at the site of a kidnapping? Why is he free to roam about? Why is nobody questioning him?
He's cool. He's chill. He's chill. Let's, I think we're good, man. Let's get into our Rotten Tomatoes segment and see what everybody else thinks about this fucking movie. Justin, do you have Rotten.com pulled up, sir?
I got them all Rotten Tomatoes. It's got a cool poster on here. I got a poster from Korea, as I do, and it is not this cool poster that Rotten Tomatoes has pulled up. Man,
cool
at least
poster on Rotten.
I think Jason Edmiston did one of the posters for Glass. And he's one of my favorites. He's the painted one with Elijah.
The one I'm looking at, it's split 3 ways. So left side is purple, middle is yellow, right is green, and like the top of it is like them sitting in the fucking hospital, literally like sitting in their chairs tied to it. But the reflection in the floor, like you can't see their faces up top, but the reflection in the floor is them standing and empowered, which is kind of like another just cock tease of this movie. It's like, no, they actually just sit there the whole time. Anyways, let's get into this Rotten Tomatoes segment. Big sample size, 249 critic reviews counted so far. So this movie just came out Friday, this past weekend. And so let's see what everyone has to say about this. Bob, why don't you kick us off with the critic score?
It's kind of hard to say. I don't know. I think critics aren't fooled by M. Night. They're wise. I'm going to, 45 maybe.
Okay. 45. Randy?
I don't. I feel like this. I feel like it's a safer option for critics to rail on Shyamalan than to not. So I'm guessing lower as well. I'm going to go with 50.
50. Bob is going to take it. The critics are not fooled. They're not fools. This is out of the 249 reviews counted, 89 are fresh, 160 are rotten, for a tomato score of 36%. Average rating, though, 5 out of 10. So that reflects a little bit better picture, I guess. But so a little split on it, but it is rotten.
I see what you did there.
The critic consensus is Glass displays a few glimmers of M. Night Shyamalan at his twisty world building best, but ultimately disappoints as the conclusion to the writer-director's long gestating trilogy. So even like world building, like I didn't,
Yeah.
he didn't. Yeah.
Not on this one.
No.
Adding the Colts was not a good choice, or in the way that he had it, like that actually was the weakest or one of the weakest. So yeah, either way though, they're not sold on this. So let's hop into the audience score, which is surprisingly, well, I guess it's new. It's really low though. So far the user rating is 4,271. So like really low. We're talking like that Christmas movie we watched low. What was that? Christmas Evil. Yeah, damn. I think that had more. Anyways, it's a new movie though, and we're getting kind of the jump on it. So let's start with Randy this time. Randy, what do you think the audience feels like for this movie?
I don't know. I don't fucking know. 60. No, you know, fuck that. 50. I'm going 50 again.
50 split. All right, Randy.
I see what you did.
Bye.
I think people. Fuck. I don't know. 30. I'll go 30.
You think low? All right.
Yeah.
Randy's going to take it with his kind of positive thinking, with his neutral thinking. It is a surprising, a questionable 78%. Average rating 4 out of 5 from the audience.
Wow.
It is small though, so this is the thing is in the Slack channel, and we're going to jump into it now that we've actually reviewed it. Some people are starting to kind of give their thoughts a little bit. You know, we're trying to kind of wait for the cast to kind of drop spoilers, and people, you know, still new people are trying to see it. But some people seem pretty pleased, and now I'm curious to see like what was it that, you know, you guys really dug about it, and I'm curious to hear that perspective as well. So of course we have our Slack channel. If you want to jump on that, hit us up. But we are going to be discussing some positives. I've already seen some. I think somebody said 3.5 out of 5 already they were giving it, so
which is pretty good. Yeah.
Which would be, I mean, 78% from the audience score. That's closer than our like 1.8 or whatever we got. Yeah. So I don't know. So we're Straight Chilling Crew's definitely siding more with like the critic kind of look on this, which was 36% rotten.
Us elitist assholes are here to ruin your fun.
But so I don't know, but definitely some people are digging on this, and we want to know why. We want to know
I
what's
wanted to like this movie. Maybe that's why it had taken it so hard.
Even coming into this cast, I was like willing to be like, you know, like down the middle with it. Like, well, this is good, but this was bad. This was good, and this was bad. And once it started flowing, I was like, wow, actually.
So, yeah, exactly. That was my experience. Exactly. I was like, okay, I'm going to defend this movie. And then you guys kept talking. I was like, shit, like that's a lot of really sound complaints for this movie. I don't know, like I still enjoyed myself. Like I walked out of that movie and I was like silent. I walked out with Becky, and then we got in the car and she's like, are you like, that was a dumb movie? And I was like, I don't know, was it?
That was like, a dumb movie. Thanks. Just coming out swinging.
Well, she doesn't care about comic books to begin with. She's like, it felt hokey. And she also hadn't seen Unbreakable, so she didn't realize that was also sort of like, that is a thing within the world. So that's
movie in no way can stand on its own. The way like Unbreakable completely stands on its own, the way Split completely stands on its own. This movie in no way, shape, or form can come anywhere close to standing on its own.
It can't even stand in the trilogy.
This movie, some thoughts on how to save this movie, how you could have saved this movie based on from the trailer on.
A complete rewrite.
Well, yeah, basically. So you have Elijah Price locked up. You have him locked up, and then these two other dudes get placed in lockup with him for whatever reason. It doesn't matter why. Bruce Willis gets popped for vigilantism, and McAvoy gets popped for stealing girls and killing them. So you have them all three at the beginning of this movie. It's mostly just him and his day-to-day, and him like talking to his therapist or whatever, Sarah Paulson, and finding out what his conflict, what he wants, what his conflict is now that he's sort of gotten partially what he wants, which is the discovery of superhumans, you know, and all these things are happening. and he discovers, oh shit, there's this guy Split, and he shows up in his hospital, and so does fucking Bruce Willis, and he's like, oh, okay. So he starts scheming something, and halfway through the movie, they get the fuck out of there, the two bad guys, and David Dunn has to break his way out and chase them. Then you've got a movie, and then like on the scale of like actual
His son
story.
Has something to do then too.
Yeah,
he's
exactly.
like a tracker. You get to see his skills. Like, yeah, that's like it's kind of like a chase. Yeah, kind of.
McAvoy definitely should have gone after David Dunn's son, because his fixation on people needing to be broken and this guy who can't physically be broken would lead him to break somebody emotionally. Yeah. That's the only way to get at Bruce Willis, is to go after his heart. So that could have been like David Dunn and McAvoy, and then you could have that's not that so complex that you can't like have a whole other strain of thought for Elijah where he's struggling with like what's the value of showing the world? Should we be in shadows? Maybe he's struggling with that, and maybe he doesn't know if that's what he wants or not anymore because he's been in lockup forever and he's been casting doubts on himself. You could have had that movie, and you could have had the spectacle, and you could have had fucking everything, but you fucked it. You put him in a pin. You drugged him up and put him in a pin, and the title character doesn't speak for the first hour or more. What the fuck?
Randy,
okay, that was my rant. Bye.
Do you have any trivia on this?
I can. Not a lot. I'm gonna skip it. It's not worth it. It's all like pretty basic stuff that we've already kind of covered anyway.
Yeah, I know one thing that I was just reading, and it was kind of, I guess I got on this string of like when I was looking at the Shyamalan like financing it himself. I did see like a thing where like Anya Taylor-Joy was talking about like her like kind of want to become a director too, and how she spent a lot of time with like he seems like a good dude. He was
I
like
the guy.
Yeah, he was like showing her like, you know, like and asking her opinions and like, you know, really just kind of like taking her like under his wing and like, you know, really trying to help her along, which I thought was great. Anyways, that was the only trivia or whatever, but it seems like, you know, that would be interesting to see where she kind of comes up with, you know, in the future. And, you know, even with her character, like, man, she's such a great actress. And I thought it was intriguing kind of what they did with her character, where she actually, it almost was a little bit like of that kind of like Stockholm Syndrome, which we were just talking about in another movie. And tapes. Yeah, the old Poops tapes. And and so, you know, that was kind of interesting because she does kind of fall for Kevin, or at least like befriends him and like sympathizes with him and defends him, but they kind of just farted that out too. So, you know, that's kind of a bummer, but I don't know. That was my only bit of trivia, is she wants to be a director, and she kind of had a little help during the filming of this movie.
Just like in everything else, being a good person doesn't necessarily make you good at art or whatever, at anything. So, I mean, Stanley Kubrick gets to be a huge piece of shit to people and make fucking renowned, amazing fucking movies. And M. Night gets to sometimes make okay movies and be a nice guy. In the meantime, sometimes you just don't get both, I guess.
Dude, I wanted that fucking cameo. I wanted old Sixth Sense. I wanted him to be the detective. I wanted him to be the...
I really thought that might happen.
The ghost detective.
Because I heard like this, only a bare snippet on the radio. I heard a review of this movie, and they're like, somebody referred to it as the Shyamalaniverse, which is a, you know, common joke or whatever. But I was like, wait, is he serious? Is like, are they gonna like work in fucking Mark Wahlberg into this thing? What's going on here?
Oh my god, that'd be terrible.
It's terrible. But they did work in
the one dude who talks to trees. And the one who, dude, he should just have like a little, like, he carries around like this plant, like that's his superpower, and it like it like paralyzes people.
Hang on.
The ground.
Too much. Is there a cooter in this movie? I don't
oh shit. The cooter. Paulson?
I think it's
Yeah.
It's gotta be McAvoy.
I get, yeah, he steals some girls.
He murders and steals people. Like that
doesn't actually murder them though.
He does eat somebody though. It's not one of the girls though. It's like
not. We don't see him do it, but he's.
Oh yeah, he does eat a cop.
He eats a cop at the end. Yeah, he's got like blood on his mouth. I guess he's the cooter. Yeah. He's like I don't know.
It's also
this movie's
sexual.
not even worthy of a cooter.
No, I don't know if Shyamalan can develop a good cooter. I don't think he's got the chops.
You know what? Shyamalan's the cooter in this movie. It was a weird little cameo.
Yeah, his
just
fucking
let your dad take a walk.
That
Get out of your movie.
I feel like every single fucking shot. I know he wants to be Hitchcock or whatever and be in all of his movies. That's fine. But Hitchcock walked a dog in the background. You are making full statements to the camera.
They don't matter. Like,
yeah, it's just
matter.
like
it literally.
Like, if he had turned to the camera and gone,
so Shyamalan could be in it.
If he had turned to the camera and been like, "Remember," I wouldn't have been surprised.
Remember?
This is what I look like, in case you guys forgot.
I was actually jealous of.
A.
I was actually jealous of Becky in that moment because I know she doesn't know what M. Night looks like, so she had no idea what was happening.
She was probably like, "What the fuck is this dumbass scene?"
Like, I was a
That
hard
made
boy
no
once,
sense.
but I had good clean living now because I had turned it my other cheek. And it's like we're supposed to be like, oh yeah, but you didn't tell us about that guy who beat your ass or whatever happened. I can't remember. But it's like I don't know. No, M. Night, please.
Stay out of your movies.
Just pick up the bag and walk out, and that's your cameo.
God, buy the camera and get out of the store. What are you doing?
You don't
God.
need talk, M. Night. The whole movie's just you talking.
Okay.
Oh, M. Night, the old cooter M. Night, huh?
I wish.
Cooter Night.
I wish.
Nah, he's not. Like I said, I don't think I've ever seen a cooter in a Shyamalan flick.
He's good at having good actors and good enough characters to where they are complex enough to not really qualify. I think for the most part, like nobody really is quite so basic as to be Oren Scrivelli. Like nobody is really so one-dimensional as a cooter typically is.
Yeah. Oh, the blind chick from that whatever movie. She could be in the Shyamalan verse too. Can't she like see auras or something? She's blind, but she can do something.
She's
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oracle.
The blind chick from The Woods or whatever that movie's called. The Village.
Oh, yeah.
So over it.
Yeah, this movie is dumb.
Rob, though, I tried. Rob, don't say I didn't try. Don't say Rob coming in the lowest because I bet he went in with the highest expectations. Rob coming in with the 1 star after coming in with the pre-2019 list. Glass.
You know what?
Top
I'm
10.
my own person. I can think what I want, Justin.
All
Let's
right.
talk about some horror news here. Let's see what we got. Oh yeah, here we go. Dario Argento has started talking about the Suspiria remake, which is kind of
a Slack.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, and honestly, I'm surprised at this, but he did not like it. I, for some reason, thought he would love it. He said.
Actually, here's the thing. I actually read it, and I know he's Italian, so I don't know.
He's Italian.
Right, but he never actually says that he doesn't like the movie. He kind of does a thing where he says, this was good, but I felt like this betrayed the original.
So his exact quote is, "It did not excite me. It betrayed the spirit of the original film. There is no fear. There is no music. The film has not satisfied me so much."
Okay.
So he doesn't say I don't like it, but he basically says I didn't like it.
Yeah,
but and then betrayal is pretty hard.
Yeah, I guess betrayal is pretty hard. He did offer. He said something good about it. I can't remember what he said exactly.
Yeah, he said it's like it looks good. It's beautifully shot. Like he creates nice images. And
stuff.
He
creates nice images. Oh, actually, he did kind of say something smarmy. He was like, he creates nice images. He makes really beautiful like tables and chairs or something. I was like, God damn! What?
I like Dario Argento, but that man also directed Dracula 3D.
Yeah,
which is one of the worst
3D.
movies
Come
I've
on,
ever seen.
dude. Yeah, come on.
However,
your OG movie is like, man, come on. No music. No music.
Yeah, I don't know if he meant that.
I know you prefer it, but
I prefer the original. But it's like, yeah.
Maybe that's like an Italian metaphor. Like, oh, there's no music in the movie.
Sure. Okay.
That's what I thought. Like, I assumed it was that. Actually, I was like, it doesn't sing, like that.
Well, I just know with this. I mean, I know the new score. Well, I know the new score is like way different than like the OG. So I thought maybe he was
the
like,
score was great.
as far as like, because he's like, there's no scare. So I thought he was saying like, oh, the music they used was like not appropriate or not like, because his was so like.
Goblin with the crazy wild synth.
His was fun. His was good. It's like easy to remember and all that shit, but it's also a little hokey. Like, I don't know.
I'm surprised you, Randy, prefer the OG.
Yeah, I think so. Like, it's just, I don't know. It's tough to separate them like entirely because in my mind, it's like anything that's a remake, it's impossible not to compare. And it's like one doesn't exist without the other, but the same isn't true the other way around. So I don't know.
Well, I just, from my memory, I know we did Suspiria, and I felt like we were all pretty lukewarm on it. Like, we're like, yeah, like, looks good visually, but, like, pretty sparse on, like, characters and actual development. But then I remember Randy, like, really, like, talking highly of the Suspiria remake, so I was like, well, I just assumed that you...
Well, I've also, like, developed a taste for like, the original Suspiria over the years, so...
Right. It's reviewed it last year, guy. Come on now.
I mean, it's really grown on me. What am I gonna say? What do you want me to say? That's fucking. I like the movie more now than I did originally. That's not inconsistent.
I think it's growing on me too. The original, anyways.
Oh, really?
The original, I think it's grown on me in the same way. Like House, it appeals to me on the same on a lot of the same levels as like House, which is like it's a fantasy horror.
That movie's
and
so
it's
great.
like it's like a childish.
House, by the way. The Japanese movie, not the American
House,
movie.
yeah. Like it's like a childish take on horror, and I think that like that's the intention. It's like a dream, a nightmare, and a nightmare doesn't, necessarily have to be, fucking hostile to be scary.
Yeah. Or Argento throwing shade. I saw he was like directing another movie or something.
I don't think that's very classy, but unless they really fuck up the movie, like really bad, like I don't think there's any reason for you to like go after those people. But it's because I feel like maybe. I feel like if like he had maybe stuck to the original more, like Argento probably still would have complained, like, oh no, it doesn't live up to mine. Like it just sounds like he's saying like, oh, it doesn't live up to mine. Like just compliment the guy. Come on.
Yeah, maybe he's just like a grumpy old man. Who knows?
Probably. He's getting pretty old. He's like in his 70s.
Yeah, he's up there. The next bit of news. Alex Aja's new movie, which is titled Crawl, finally got a release date. It's coming out August 19th, 2019. Alex Aja previously directed High Tension, Hills Have Eyes, Mirrors, Piranha, Horns. This movie, so like the plot synopsis of this movie is there's a young woman who's trying to save her father's life during a Category 5 hurricane. And she finds herself trapped inside a flooding house fighting for her life against Florida's most savage and feared predators, in which they're referring to alligators. So that sounds interesting. I'm down.
Whoa.
No, it doesn't. That doesn't sound interesting at all to me.
Really?
No.
I'm down.
Really? So, what about that sounds intriguing to you?
I don't know, like a crazy alligator movie, like a monsters run amok or creatures run amok. Like, I don't know. It sounds interesting. And if you're familiar with Aja's movies, they're usually relatively graphic. So you're going to, it's like people are going to get chomped in half by alligators during a Category 5, hurricane.
So what?
I'm down.
I don't know. That sounds boring as fuck to me.
Really?
Anyway,
it's like that's a B movie premise. So
yeah, it really is. Oh, we're trapped in a house during a hurricane. Oh, and shit, it happens to be Florida, so there's some alligators in our house. Like what?
Like, it's a B movie premise, and I'm of the mind that like the right person with a B movie premise can make a fucking great ass movie with it, and we've seen that with other movies. So I like High Tension, so I'm not like it's not like it doesn't sound like a thinker if it happens
not
to
at all. Not at all.
But I feel like that's something I could have fun with if it's done well. It could be just an asylum picture though, for all we know. Like who knows? Yeah. Like it could be like complete, Drek, but we won't know until we get there. And to me, it's judging a book by its cover a little bit.
A little bit.
Yeah, I'm intrigued by it, and maybe we'll be talking about it come August. Make Justin watch it.
Hopefully not.
The last bit of news I wanted to talk about, there's a I guess you'd call it a teaser trailer for a Ghostbusters 3 movie that's coming out. That's like a direct sequel to Ghostbusters 1 and 2 from the 80s, and like the original crew is coming back.
Yeah, there's a new Ghostbuster teaser, Randy. Except I didn't read much like about like, oh, the original crew coming back, but I think even though they're like it's a direct sequel, like they said it was gonna focus on like a bunch of teenagers or something.
Yeah, they're gonna introduce 4 like teens, I guess. Probably like
so pretty much they're saying like, oh hey, remember when we tried to reboot it and it was a bunch of women and that was a bust? Now we're gonna try it with kids, and it's like, fuck you guys.
Yeah, this sounds dumb as hell to me.
It does.
Don't make this.
And they're really just trying to fool you into being like, no, it's the original cast. No, it's the original like world. It's like, who gives a damn if it's the original world? If it's an all new cast, it's like, you're not fooling me, corporate greed.
Even if it's just the old guys coming back with no young kids being introduced, I don't give a fuck.
I don't give 2 shits either. And the thing is like, yeah, okay, the original Ghostbusters, they're cool. I like to watch them, but I don't give that much of a damn about them. I don't. There's plenty of ghost movies. There's plenty, but I mean, like, but you see what I'm saying? Like,
I don't need old ass Bill Murray running around.
Well, not even just Bill Murray, but like it's not. I don't find the Ghostbusters universe or the world in which they live so intriguing that I need new characters to be in that world. It's like, just make another ghost kind of. I mean, there's plenty of ghost movies. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't feel like it's such a rich cultural world that they've developed here that I just can't wait for some new characters to explore it. It's like, oh, it's fucking New York and there's ghosts and they're goofy.
Just make Winchester
and they're gonna be CG this time. Yeah, instead of fucking. Yeah. I don't know. It's not like you've developed some fucking Narnia world or some Lord of the Rings. It's like it's fucking New York and there's CGI ghosts. That's the world you've made. That's
It's just. There's nothing to be excited about there. Like, I don't. First of all, let's just start with this. Harold Ramis is dead, so there's no Egon. So I mean, that alone is enough for me to be like, I don't want to see these guys dust off the old fucking uniform just to be saddened by the fact that one of them is fucking dead for real.
Yeah, and I don't give 2 shits about Dan Aykroyd. Like, it's pretty much trying to be like, hey, Bill Murray's gonna be in this movie. That's really what the pitch to.
This is one of the things I have the biggest problem with when it comes to remakes and shit. It's like, this series isn't sacred to you, Justin, but to me it kind of is, or it would have been back when I still held movies in high regard and felt things about them being remade. Now I just can't feel things about them anymore. There's fucking 3 new Star Wars movies, 4. Fucking why I can't feel strongly about these things except to hate them because they exist just to like water down the thing that I liked in the first place. Like, at best, like, I can't. Can you imagine a world where this movie comes out and it is great? Because I can't imagine that. Imagine a movie that
the world doesn't exist,
Brad. Right? Like fucking Star Wars. Both of them. They had one that was a direct fucking rip of A New Hope, and people complained about that shit forever. And then they made one that went a completely different direction. People complained their assholes off about that one. This is a movie that is destined to fail.
So what you're saying is you can't wait to see it.
Giving it a shot. No, I don't like. I understand like the reboot with different actors or whatever. Like, fine, I guess, but like to pull in the old cast and everything is just like, leave it alone, man. Make money another way.
I agree. Welcome to Complain Cast.
Yeah, God, really? I feel like a piece of shit because this whole episode is us bitching like assholes about movies that are made for our benefit.
Do better.
Everyone sucks but us.
Yep. That's what we have to say on this day.
Yeah.
So a rough start for our theatrical movie reviews in 2019. It's all uphill from here. I think
it is January though, to be fair.
Is it?
I mean,
is it all uphill from here?
or downhill. Shit, the movies are gonna get better. We're gonna talk about some good movies. I guarantee it.
Okay.
I guarantee it.
Let's hope so.
That's it. That's it for the show. We're going to be back next week with another movie review. Of course, it's going to be a brand new Patreon pick. It's another fucked up movie. Our patrons are twisted individuals. We're going to be talking about Martyrs from 2008.
Twisted Sister.
All the heavy hitters, getting them out of the way. Fucking Martyrs. Please rate, review, and subscribe to us on iTunes. You can follow us on Twitter at str8_chilling. We're on Instagram at Straight Chilling Podcast. You can send us an email through our website, straightchillingpodcast.com. Hit us up on Slack. If you want to join the conversation on Slack, just let me know through any one of our social media platforms, and I'll send you a link so you can join us in the weekly conversations. Hit us up on YouTube, Twitch. I think that's everything, right? What else are we on? We're on everything. We're on all.
We're everywhere. We are everywhere. Yeah. I think this will be the last week. Or well, if you want to tune in the Twitch, we're doing them Saturday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern time for this month, and then that might change for February. But we still got 1 or 2 more weeks of that. So, that's the Twitch times. Stay consistent on that front.
I like it. I like the consistency. I appreciate it. For show. That's it. Shyamalan. Make another movie. We'll see.
Oh my God.
What?
A joke about twists. Ah! It has to be out there.
My ass is glass. All right, that's it. Until next week. As always, all you mother truckers, please keep chilling.
God, we suck.
We did it.
Man, that was